Thank you for giving us a few extra minutes. We really wanted all of the folks assembling behind me to have time to get to a point where they could take a brief break in their work and join us this morning. I'm Teresa Wilson, City Manager, and we'll follow a similar protocol, but honestly, this morning we wanted to come back to the canal as the backdrop for you all to be able, as you have been, to communicate to our constituents and the citizens of Columbia, to visually also see the good work that is being done, has been done with the dam completion at 150 feet elevation. I mean, we are so proud of the gentlemen and women featured behind us, the combined collaborative work of so many individuals. I do want to, bear with me, name every single one of them that have been working on this project at this time, and then we will give you some brief updates on the canal repair. McClam and Associates, Patriot Construction, M.W. White Company, Vulcan, MB Con, Godwin Pumps, Chandler Construction, Garner and Sunbelt Pumps, Chow and Associates, and AECom, the National Guard, FERC, Black & Veatch, the Corps of Engineers, Lockhart, Klein and Schmidt, KC and West Columbia, our partners always, the South Carolina Department of Transportation, and SCE&G. And let me tell you, I cannot leave out our City of Columbia Utilities and Engineering Department and all of the city departments who have worked so hard. I know a lot of times you see me and you see Missy Gentry, Assistant City Manager, standing up here relaying information, but the feet on the ground has been significant throughout this entire project, and it will continue. But we have come to a very good day where we can report out some great information to you all on the improvements that have been made. I want to specifically thank also my staff, Senior Assistant City Manager Allison Baker, who may not be up here, but they're working hard in the field, Assistant City Manager and Chief Financial Officer Jeff Palin. Those folks, just because you don't see them, and all of the staff from our public relations staff with Leisha Utsi and all her staff, they have worked so tirelessly 24/7 throughout this process that I just had to say thank you this morning. My heart is full, and we're very thankful for the progress that we've made. Our first responders are continuing to respond. Chief Holbrook and Chief Jenkins, the leadership that they've exhibited throughout this event is significant. It really is. They have kept all of their employees safe as possible and their morale up. Kim Gathers with 911 Communications and all of the individuals that take the calls that we've received during this event. It's just amazing, the amount of community spirit and work that our employees and the citizens of Columbia have given to allow us to get to a significant point today. So with that said, I'm going to allow Missy Gentry to give a few updates and Joey Jaco to take any questions on the canal repair. That's what we really want to focus on today. And we'll also, of course, allow Mayor Benjamin, who is so proud, to talk about just a lot of community meetings and things that are happening as a whole to get information out to our community members.
Hello. We are pleased to let you know that as of about 6 o'clock last night, the dam was completed, and that's a tremendous success. There's still activity going on. We expect to be in this area working for the next 6 months to a year. So the first step has been completed. You will see water return to the area behind the dam probably towards the end of this week. So that will allow us to begin using our normal intake. So that will be a great thing. I do want to give you numbers as far as the canal plant. We're currently, our intake is 28 million. That's because that's all we need. We're full and we can't take any more. Our discharge is 20 million. So you'll remember over the last few days our intake was a little bit higher than that. But again, we're full right now. We completed the second set of 24-inch pipe to the river. We did operate it last night. It's in place. It will remain in place until the point that the water has returned to the canal and our intake is back operational. I want to give a little bit of information on sewer and debris management as well. We have, as of last night, we have collected 1,600 tons of debris from the the area with the most impact. We will continue collecting that debris throughout the duration of this process. Again, trash collection, which is your yard debris, has been suspended this week because we've sent those crews to the areas with the most significant impact. We will let you know towards the end of the week what we're going to do with trash collection in the coming weeks. We are collecting garbage and recycling on normal schedule throughout the city of Columbia. In addition, we have some community meetings coming up. Tonight we will be at the C.R. Neal Dream Center from 6 to 8, and Thursday night we will be at Kilbourne Baptist to really reach out to the community, the areas impacted, and talk about the floodway, the floodplain, and what the provisions are as far as the people who need to rebuild. There are processes you need to go through, and we want to help you with that. There are some FEMA disaster recovery centers that have been stood up. Those folks will be at our meetings tonight and Thursday night as well to help guide you through that process. Our sewer plant is operational. The intake is going down. It still exceeds what it normally does this time of year, but it is operational, and we're out in the field working on any issues we see with the sewer system.
Thank you. I'll let Joey wrap it up. Again, I know we all want to take some time to recognize the fact that these men and women, the city manager listed them in detail, came together, worked through incredible adversity, incredible forces of nature, worked around the clock in the very worst of circumstances, and managed to complete this temporary dam in just over a week. It's a testament not only to their ability and their ingenuity and dedication, but also, I think, to the strength of our community. I'm very impressed by our staff and their work and the work of this entire team behind us, and makes me very proud to be their mayor. There's still a great deal of work to be done. Hopefully all of you are continuing to rely on the City of Columbia incident response brief that's posted online every day. We think it's a great example of the transparency that we're seeing. Water supply is stable and strong. As the Assistant City Manager mentioned, the reservoir is full. The repairs to the system that will allow us to continue to provide relief from the boil water alerts advisory continue. Two repairs completed yesterday, Audubon Oaks, as well as 3200 Fernandina Road, check line, no break to repair. All the three areas that were flooded have now, since the waters have receded, have been checked, and there are no problems to address there. Still under repairs a major line on K Street. Our staff has been diligent in testing the water, and as each different area of the city becomes clear, we will continue to issue the boil water advisory repeals. As the Assistant City Manager mentioned, over 3.2 million pounds of debris removed from the streets of the city. We continue to engage with our citizens on a regular basis, sharing information and the importance of filing with FEMA. Again, we all know that FEMA individual assistance has been authorized for the City of Columbia. In our area, residents provide temporary housing assistance and other immediate funding assistance. We need all residents of the city, and quite frankly, anyone affected by the storm who may not live in the City of Columbia, to call 1-800-621-FEMA, 1-800-621-3362, and begin the process of recovery. The FEMA assistance centers are open in the city right now, and also the U.S. Small Business Administration has approved assistance for small businesses and homeowners for the region. We want to encourage people to go to disasterloan.sba.gov/ELA or call 1-800-659-2955 and make sure that we're making ourselves, we're availing ourselves of all of the services available to the people of this city. I'm going to yield to Joey Jaco, who's been down here. Joey sometimes, will tell you, is not a man of a lot of words. But I think the city manager and assistant city manager and everyone else down here will agree. Working with these great men and women assembled behind us last week, he showed incredible leadership, and we're thankful for him and his entire team. This is, I think, not just an important structural development, but I think also a psychological and emotional lift for the people of this region. As a result, we will work to continue to rebuild. We'll build smarter, we'll build stronger, we'll build more resilient for the future. Joey?
Thank you. There's a lot of credit due today, and it's the ladies and gentlemen standing with me today. We were able to successfully close the hole last night, and it's because of the efforts of the people standing behind me. Blanchard Machinery was not mentioned earlier. They need to be included on the list. There's a lot of machinery here at work, and they've been here the whole time. But also, we need to include on that list, as Ms. Teresa, City Manager, mentioned, our staff. We've had staff working around the clock since this all began. So it's really because of the people standing behind me and our staff as to why we were able to make this happen. So there's a lot of credit due here today. But I'll open for any questions if anybody has any questions concerning the project. Well, we did successfully close last night. We're going to continue working on what we've got behind us for a couple of days. The intention now is we've built a good solid rock dam that has a lot of seepage coming through it. So the first step is we're going to try to control the seepage coming through it. We're inspecting the entire length of the levee to make sure that we don't have any concerns for future breaches. We're going to make all those repairs. All this will be done before we bring the water level up, because we need to do the work we need to do before we bring the water level up. We're bringing a lot of water from the river right now. We are still able to pump from the canal to bring water into the plant. So we feel real strong about our intake right now. So we're very comfortable continuing to work with the water level down. But after that, then we'll start talking about the actual repair. And we're going to bring in a team to really build back what we need to build back. We don't want to do that part quickly. Once we feel firm that we're comfortable with the keeping the water source stable to the water plant, then we're going to take our time and we're going to build this back right. It's risen about as far as it's going to rise for now. We've got the head gates closed, and we're trying to control the level right now to make sure that we do any repairs we need to do before we bring the water level up. So what you're seeing right now will probably sustain, we're thinking, until the end of the week.
Can you talk a bit about how those 12 gates being sandbagged off have helped with controlling the water level and down here?
Yes, ma'am. Working with the Guard, they've been fantastic about getting us sandbags, and we put a lot of sandbags in front of these gates. These are old gates. They don't hold very well. So one of the problem we've had is getting the flow off to the canal to do the work we need to do. But as of yesterday, we've got it down to as far as we can probably get the water controlled. So it gave us the ability to move across. But once we get finished with this project, we will be doing a lot of work at the head gates as well to repair some of the gates. We have one active break right now. It's a 24-inch, the mayor mentioned, on K Street. And I don't believe we have anybody out of water as a result of that. We don't have any other active leaks that I'm aware of.
What percentage of the city's water customers are still under boiled water advisory, and approximately how many households or businesses is that?
I can't give you a number, but I can tell you percentage-wise, we're probably 40 to 50%. Are not under boil water.
Any ETA on when we approach 100%?
We're doing sampling as we speak. We've been sampling yesterday and today. We'll continue sampling. It depends on what the samples come back. We're hoping in the next few days that we're going to lift the entire system. Any other questions?
Okay. Just a couple of very quick notes. Of course, we're also joined here by Lockhart Power has been a great partner in this process, and also the South Carolina State Guard. I know Teresa joins me as well, and really give, I think, a special thank you to Major General Bob Livingston of the National Guard Adjutant General. He's done an excellent job working with everyone and helping direct this process as well and keeping everyone in the loop. Did want to make one more important note. You guys see our street sweepers back on Jarvis Clapman Boulevard right now. Jarvis Clapman will be reopened today, hopefully in time for rush hour. So we'll be able to allow folks to leave the city in a much more efficient manner than we have in the last few days since the storm. Any other questions? Chief, I'm sorry, Chief.
Very little to report today on the law enforcement front, which is very, very good. One thing that I would briefly mention, we still have 29 road closures with the impending bridge opening. That's great news. We have 14 manned traffic points, but one of the things that we're seeing already as normalcy returns and we're getting ready to open school tomorrow, and some of the other businesses that have returned and just more people out and about, we are starting to see significant congestion and some concerns related to that. We are continuing to assess each one of these traffic closure areas. We're making modifications when possible. I will say that we have a lot of constructive criticism and suggestions from the interested public, and quite honestly, we take all that in because we have people that travel certain routes every day. I think they're very informative about with suggestions on some alternate routes. So we take all that under advisement, but we're moving as quickly as we can to work with our partners with the Department of Transportation and our engineering folks within the city to address the closures and come up with good signage to direct people accordingly. We did make an arrest overnight in the 4500 block of Divine Street. We had an individual that intentionally rammed one of our barricades. A brief chase ensued. He was subsequently arrested without any further event. But it just kind of reinforces to us that everybody's got to be careful and be patient with. We have these barricades up for a reason and for safety, and we continue to ask for patience and cooperation. Thank you.
Don't have a whole lot new to report other than we're still kind of holding the base. We still got access from other departments helping us respond to calls, along with the National Guard and also the Army. They've got 2 of the heavy-duty tankers at one of our stations. Some of our stations are kind of blocked off on the island, particularly in the Fairfield Road area, so that's where we have really put a lot of assets out there to make sure that we have the adequate fire coverage out there. We also have our folks going out evaluating, looking at roads, making sure that we got the proper routes that we can to get you in a situation. So that's kind of a little brief update for me.
As we wrap up, Mr. Davis and I met yesterday with the North Columbia Business Association, also met with some constituents, some citizens out on the southeast side of town, about 30 of them over on Forest Drive. We're moving into different phases of the challenge that we're all facing together, and people have a lot of questions, particularly around flood repair, the role that FEMA plays into it, and certainly the role that their city will play in helping them rebuild. So we can't overstate the importance of these flood repair permitting open houses that we're having. The first one tonight at the C.R. Neal Dream Center at 2430 Atlas Road from 6 p.m. to 8 p.m. and the second on Thursday night, October 15th from 6 to 8 at Kilburn Park Baptist Church, located at 4205 Kilburn Road. These are, of course, designed to answer homeowner questions and contractor questions about the permitting process in a one-on-one setting. Spanish interpreters will be available at both open houses. Our staff has worked diligently at the city manager's direction to come up with an expedited process for allowing people to go through this process very as easily as possible. I had a chance to speak with some of our citizens who did it yesterday, and they were incredibly pleased with the way in which the city has responded. Of course, all this happens at our Chief Administration Building on the corner of Washington and Main Street. People who have questions about building permits should call the Development Center at 803-545-3483. Thank you. Chris. The question was about the elections coming up. Council has not discussed it yet. I expect it should probably be on our agenda for this coming Tuesday. I think it does give some of us some concerns, of course. Absentee balloting wasn't able to be open for several days at the beginning of the process, and some of the areas that have been most affected, we want to make sure those voters on the southeast side of town, as well as on the north side of town, aren't disenfranchised. So it's something we have to talk about. But we have not talked about that as a council yet. My expectation is that's something the full council should discuss. And I expect that our agenda for Tuesday will be a lot different than we expected it to be, and probably will be for the next several meetings. Jack? The stadium's on time and on budget. All right. Chuck?
You said you want to build it right the next time. Do you have an idea roughly what the timeline might be as far as finding the money, getting the construction done? This is a temporary facility, right? So, you know, there's an idea how much it may last, how long it might take before you have this correct.
I can't speak to that right now, and maybe the city manager or assistant city manager might want to. I will tell you this, Chuck. We will be availing ourselves of every single resource available to the people of this city and this region possible through the federal government. We've made a request already, and we'll continue to develop that request over the next several weeks, including a special allocation from the federal government to help rebuild down here as well as across the city. I'm not shy about saying that when natural disasters have hit other parts of the country, the people of Columbia, the people of South Carolina have been there with our support, our financial support, our emotional support, and it's wonderful to see that all coming right back to Columbia. Right now we've had an incredible lift from people all across the country, indeed the world. But we will not rest at all until we find all the funds to rebuild and rebuild again for the 21st century.
Have you been in contact with various delegations?
I've been in contact with every member of the congressional delegation that represents Columbia. So in constant contact with Mr. Wilson, of course Mr. Clyburn, Senator Graham, Senator Scott, and also with Congressman Trey Gowdy, and also with several ranking members of various committees that don't represent South Carolina, but because of their personal relationships with our delegation and their affinity for Columbia, have also reached out to us, making sure that they help.
Well, some of these members voted against help for Sandy. Have they given you an indication of which way they go?
I'm sure the South Carolinians will do the smart things and support South Carolina.
Just to add, just from a process standpoint, we anticipate if not today, tomorrow, having our first official briefing with FEMA. We've already had several meetings with them, but there's a point where it's called a kickoff briefing with each entity, where we actually, as the applicant, begin some of the formal processes that we've already been recording. The this project here would be considered a permanent category. The categories that are opened immediately, categories A and B through FEMA, happened immediately upon the declarations made by the governor and the president. So those were categories that included public safety categories and debris removal and that type of thing. We're about to enter a phase now where the other categories, C through G, will be open, and that's where the funding for this type of project we would then apply for and make the case for it to be reimbursed at 100%. And I think all of the delegation members that the mayor mentioned are well aware of how that process works and are supportive of us in that process. I wanted to also come back up and say thank you to the Salvation Army. These gentlemen have been fed well and taken care of with their needs with so many partners, but they particularly asked me to thank the Salvation Army. And again, I said it when I was up here enough, our staff, utilities and engineering staff led by Joey Jaco and Clint Shealy. I mean, their leadership has been phenomenal.
How about a round of applause for these men and women behind us? Thank you.
Thank you.